What's going on, guys? Good morning. How are we? Good evening, good afternoon to our US and UK crew. We're coming up with another episode of the podcast, and I'm super pumped to be with you again. So let us know if you are indeed coming into this one live, and we're going to be starting this in 3 minutes, as we always do. I'm getting the notifications that we are live everywhere, and I'm super pumped as we nestle up close to Christmas. I think this is going to be a good episode, a really good reflective episode for people to be part of. So if you're getting into this one live, guys, get in the comments, let us know you're here. I think this is going to be very, very helpful for a number of people. As the sun is shining here in beautiful Canada. Oh my God, it's still chilly outside, but it's feeling good. I've got the heater on, but it's sunny, and that's a start. I am so jealous. I'm so jealous to you guys over in Australia having a beautiful time in the sun. You lucky devils. Anyway, maybe might be able to make a trip back soon. Let's see. All right, so who we got in here? We're going to be starting this episode in 2 minutes, team. And so we've got the lovely Kate Wynn. Good morning, Kate. I hope you're having a beautiful start to your morning. Hello, Shawnee, with us at a beautiful 5:30 Queensland time. Terry, what's going on, legend? I hope you were beautifully well, mate, you sexy man. We've got Xanth in here as well. We've got all the kings and queens coming in this morning. Hey, Lozzie, good morning. I hope you've had a beautiful start to the morning, Loz, getting out and doing your thing. Kara, what's happening, girlfriend? I hope you're good. I want to see some of that new merch on you, buddy. Nikki friend, how are you, mate? I got your message. I've got the gist of it, but I haven't read it yet, mate, so a lot of things going on. You'd prefer Canada? Oh, you're on the piss, Kate. Come on, mate. Guys, we're starting in a minute and a half. Hey, Phil, what's going on? Hope things are beautiful in Cape Town. Good morning, Jace. Hey, you beautiful human. Go up to the body of the email and press restream, the little link there that you see, so I can actually see who you are. Speaking of seeing who I am, good morning, Stace. How are you, girl? We're starting in 1 minute, guys. So if you're coming into this one live, I'd love to know how your weekend was. Did you get some sun? Did you get some relaxation in? Good morning to all of the team in the UK. It's probably a little bit chilly for you guys, just like it is here, but we're doing our thing, right? We're bedding in for winter and putting the work in. That's what we're saying anyway. Guys, we're starting in 30 seconds. Ooh. Okay. So what we've got 17 people in here watching this one live. So I think we are ready to rock and roll. We good, team? We good? Let's do this. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. And I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful weekend. I hope it was a great time for the team that's still watching from this side of the world. It's a lovely Sunday for you. I hope it's been relaxing. I hope you got some time with your family. I also want to thank all of our Better Body Academy clients that got themselves some merch in the last order. It should all be delivered or it's waiting at the shop. So if you haven't got it yet, just reach out via the success team and let us know, because it should be with you, or if in not, the next couple of days. I also want to remind you that if you didn't see the notification yesterday, okay, it's in the banner of our group. We have a final call. There are no coaching calls this week. We have our final call, which is an awards call. It's our first awards call. We're going to celebrate our community, and it is on Wednesday. Now, please try to get there. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long period of time, kind of like a little bit of a bucket list thing, because I think it's cool to bring our community together and really just celebrate what we're all about. 2003 has been a huge win for a lot of people. It's been a struggle or a tough year for some other people, and so I think it's important that we pull our community together before we go into the new year. So I know it's difficult with some time zones, but if you can try to make it, please do. Okay, let's get into today's episode, guys. So we're at that point of the year where most people's attention is kind of on winding down a little bit and enjoying their Christmas. And so there's a lot of people that this type of year is triggering, right? It's a little bit of a struggle this time of year, and I totally understand that. I want to say, or send rather, some love to you, because I know that if you're one of those people, it can be quite isolating. And so all love coming to you from our community. For those that love Christmas, like me, it feels like a great time to be close to your family and start planning things. Now, the episode today comes from one of my favorite podcasts, which is called Mind Pump. They recently did an episode called 7 Steps to Get in the Best Shape of Your Life in 2024. And this is a little bit clickbaity, isn't it? Right? 7 steps to get in the best shape of your life for 2024. And it grabbed my attention. When I listened to the episode, it was great. And I love the simplicity, the fresh take on the ideas, rather than just you need to eat better or you need to exercise more. And I really love when other podcasts that are far bigger than mine, our message is synergistic with theirs. It's holistic. Out of the 7 things that they went through on the podcast about how you could boost your results for 2024, there was one that stood out. And that is what we're going to discuss today. And so that one topic is how social media impacts your life and how you can manage your algorithms. Okay, so seeing this at the top of a Get in Shape podcast, it was kind of surprising for about 5 seconds until I realized the direction that they were going, the way they were going to go. That what you watch and what you consume shifts your perspective of yourself and your perception of the world. And the most obvious, impactful one of these, ironic that we're coming through this delivery, is social media. This episode is in no way a social media bash up. Okay, that's not what's happening. It makes delivery of a thing like this podcast great. I think platforms like Facebook personally and Instagram are absolutely amazing if you know how to use them properly. But if you don't, yes, then they can have a cumulative toxic effect on your mental health. Today, I'm going to explain how they impact you and what you can actually do to not only minimize the negative effect, but optimize the positive ones. What I have become acutely aware of is that my feed is not actual real life. It's not. So let me say, if like me, you have an interest in being healthy, fit, managing your weight, I'm going to guess your feed, when you start scrolling, is bombarded with amazing looking bodies. And I mean, that makes sense because people aren't really showing their worst on social media, right? And I think that's probably what your feed's going to look like. Here's something to be aware of, and I think this is a good mindset to go into social media with. Social media is a fiction book. Social media is a fiction book. You might not be looking at a real photo. Okay, I just want to make that clearly obvious. With photoshopping, lighting changes, and now even AI, like I don't even really understand just a small part of it. You're able to completely rework what you're seeing. The Instagram photo that you see is usually very different to what the original looks like. Think of it like the difference between creating a fiction book and a non-fiction book. It's just completely different. The author has a license to create a world full of characters that doesn't exist. It might contain unicorns and dragons, and they're flying between these different worlds that don't exist in a fiction book. There's absolutely nothing that stops a person on social media from posting a social media image which is not the real world. Let's talk, aside from the reality of the photo, let's talk about the attainability of the bodies that you're seeing. Do you guys know that you're more likely to be a millionaire in terms of cash banked than you are to have a ripped six-pack? You guys realize that? Yet if your feed is like mine, it seems like everyone's got a six-pack. Or better still, an 8-pack. Fuck, it seems like some people have 6-packs on their faces. Do you guys get that impression? So if you see 6-packs and amazing asses all over your feed, and you're starting to believe that that's the majority, that it's normal to have a 6-pack and amazing ass, it's not normal. It's not average. If you go to a real gym, it's fair to say that almost no one has a 6-pack or an amazing ass. Actually do it next time you're in a gym. Have a look around and ask yourself, is this full of like cover models and goddesses? Or is it actually just people like you and me that are trying to work out to improve themselves? This is where, if more people that are intimidated by gym actually realize this, they'd be far more likely to go. So it's not the real world. Let me talk about people that do look fantastic and the people that have got a six-pack on their face or a big toned butt. It takes a hell of a lot of work to look like that, and there are payoffs. It's human nature to compare yourself to other people. I think it's pretty much human nature. I'm not actually sure that there is a way to stop it. This is a growth mindset to want to look better and feel better and earn more money. There's nothing wrong with that. But if as a result of your comparison, you're feeling shitty, not inspired, then you might want to think about whether you're actually comparing apples with apples to start with. Your feed is full of people with amazing genetics. Many of them are younger than you. Many of them don't have your responsibilities, like being a parent. Many of them are working in the fitness industry. And so their job, what they get paid for, is to look good full time. Now, do not take that the wrong way. I'm personally defiant about accepting age. I'm personally defiant that just because you're a parent or you have a lack of time, that doesn't mean that that's an excuse to not be healthy. I'm defiant against that. But if your job is to look good and you get paid more to look better, would you be willing to trade off your looks for more money in the end result? Maybe become a little bit more bodily obsessed? You would be maybe willing to do anything. Anything can range from crazy, unrealistic training regimes, which you couldn't possibly commit that amount of time to as an average person, to cosmetic surgery, performance-enhancing drugs, and then finally the photo alterations that we talked about. I'm not saying any of those things are bad. I'm saying that you need to compare apples with apples if you're going to compare. If you're going to compare, you need to compare the full story with your eyes open. I'll use myself as an example. I don't have a defined all year round six-pack, and I work my ass off in the gym, training 3 or 4 days a week since I was 10 years old. I studied nutrition at university. I run a fitness coaching company, and these are all things that advocate for me needing to look good. But I'm also 41 years old. I'm a business owner. I have mortgages. I have 2 kids and a wife, and these things constrain my time. So it's a bit of a seesaw here, right? I could do things that would make me look better, and so could you. Perhaps they might even make me more money. But there's a personal payoff here. There's a personal payoff. I could spend more time in the gym, but it would mean less time with my family. I could be more finely tuned with my nutrition to get a six-pack, but it would mean less enjoyment of the food itself, maybe even developing a bad relationship with food. I could take performance-enhancing drugs and people would look and go, wow, fuck, Jace looks great. But that would mean me compromising my integrity and honesty. Unless I was completely open with showing this off when I talked about my physique and I was open in that. And for me, that becomes a bit of a rabbit hole if you're going to go down that channel. So all in all, comparing to people in my feed is not comparing apples with apples. Can you guys let me know if you understand exactly what I'm saying here? Do you understand exactly what I'm saying here? I don't have amazing genetics. I'm a short ass, half Maltese boy, right? I don't have great genetics. I have a different set of responsibilities. And I have some core values that I'm not willing to compromise on. And you're the same. I don't know anything about the people on my feed, their genetics, what they do, what their values are. And what I know, and listen up because this is really important, guys. What I know from being in the fitness industry for a long period of time is that a huge number of people in this industry got into the industry because of their own lack of self-worth, identity, self-esteem. And so non-judgmentally, they used aesthetic pursuit as a way to leverage themselves out of that feeling. That's just being observational. I'm not being critical, I'm being observational. And so when you compare to all of this, you're not seeing the whole picture. Here's the point. Social media is shaping your thoughts like media always has. It's not just social media. So we've got print and written content. What you read shapes your thoughts. Broadcast media like TV and radio shapes your thoughts. I think about all those people that are stuck watching like Alan Jones or John Laws, and they think they've got really well created opinions, but these people are so influential. I'm not saying negative. I'm saying so influential that their influence embeds in your mind. This podcast is shaping your thoughts. Social media shapes your thoughts. What you consume through your eyes and ears shapes your thoughts as much as what you consume through your mouth shapes your body. I want to say that again. What you consume through your eyes and ears shapes your thoughts as much as what you consume through your mouth. Most people do not consciously realize what they're consuming. In part, myself as well. Do you ever find yourself at home, and be honest in the comments, do you ever find yourself at home eating a packet of biscuits or a block of chocolate only to just devour the whole thing and go, shit, I just ate that whole thing? Do you guys ever do that? There's 30 people watching on live. Don't tell me that none of you do that. Oops, I just ate the whole packet of Tim Tams. Now translate that to social media. What will you eat today that you will not be aware of? One of my mentors, Bob Proctor, taught me the phrase, what is impressed gets expressed. Meaning, whatever we repeatedly impress on our mind gets expressed through the body. He taught me that the body is just an instrument of the mind. Think of it almost like a person playing a guitar. The guitar doesn't sound like anything until the person plays it. The person plays it, the person is the mind, the body is the guitar. And so whatever gets impressed on the mind gets expressed through the body. If we repeatedly impress upon the mind that we are comparatively unattractive to our social media feed, which is full of attractive people, then our perception becomes our reality. Do you feel that, guys? This new reality must be expressed in one of two paths. Path one, which so many people know, is like a self-sabotaging path, right? Kind of like emotional eating. It causes us to feel more stressed. We get on social media, we scroll, we feel worse as a consequence. That's what's impressed. It gets expressed through stress eating, more anxiousness, and feeling helplessly shit. The other thing that it causes people to do is to adopt a behavior. It sends people into action, but often adopting behaviors that are negative and unsustainable to try and escape, like super quick fix diets, overtraining that'll eventually just fail and actually lead you back to pathway one again, hopelessly feeling shit. This is how people develop terrible relationships with food. Does this make sense, guys? This is why you need to assess what you are consuming on a daily basis. And it's important to realize that with social media, you kind of think to yourself, but I'm just scrolling. How can I do anything about that? You have a choice on what you consume. My question to you is, how much of what you are consuming is your choice? How much? You have a choice to watch this podcast or not. Think about the ways that we choose elsewhere in our lives. If we choose to read a book, and we pick it up and we don't like it, because the book is active form of engagement, it requires the brain to work. If we don't like the book, what do? Oh, this is a shit book, and we put it down. We don't keep reading it. We choose to put it down. If we listen to a podcast, even though it's not as active as reading a book, if we don't like it, we turn it off. We choose. We choose Netflix, Amazon, YouTube over boring old television because we want to select what we want to watch. And if we have this massive landscape and choice in what we want versus free-to-air TV, where there's bugger all choice, you're limited in your options. So we're choosing in other areas of our life. What about on social media? Did what you choose become, or didn't choose, become a habit? And if you don't like what you see, do you actively stop ingesting it? Honestly, for me, social media is so integrated into my life that there is little separation, if I'm just completely honest. Do you guys remember, do you remember 10 years ago when you went for a poo? And you might get halfway through, but you started your poo and you do like a sneaky scroll, but you'd never admit to it because it wasn't socially acceptable? Give me a silent head nod, even though if you weren't, admit to it in the comments. Nowadays, everyone poos and scrolls. It's totally normal. How else do you entertain yourself, right? So with social media, it's so integrated into our lives. I don't think personally it's just very practical to just say, stop using it cold turkey. I don't know if that actually works. And also, I think there's a lot of positive ways that we can use social media, which would be missed if we weren't connected. I think it's more about how you use the social media that's at question. Now, I knew we had the ability to do this, to see the information that we're actually consuming, but I didn't actually know how it worked, how to cultivate it. So for those of you on iPhone, what you can actually do is you can go into your settings and you can go to a section called Screen Time, and you can turn on app and website activity so that you can actually start tracking your usage. I don't know how to do this on Android. So if you're on Android, I'm sure there's a way, but you can turn the setting on an iPhone. You can also go into the individual social media apps and get a bit more of a detailed breakdown of your consumption. For example, on Facebook, you can go to settings, time on Facebook, and you can see it all. Now, my experience is that you know subjectively whether you spend a lot of time on social media or not. But when you see it as a number on your phone, it's actually real. And from here, it's just a matter of asking yourself, is that healthy or not? And you can answer the question with the data that you've got. I'd personally suggest breaking it down in two ways. And that would be quantity and quality of time on social media. So let's think about the quantity assessment. How much time are you spending on social media? What's taking up the most amount of your time? If, like me, your business is integrated with social media, do you spend too much time? Could you cut that down a bit? And here's a big question. What is time on social media costing you in time off social media? This is the big question. What's the cost of being on social media versus off it? For example, I see so many people that say, Jace, I've got zero time to prepare healthy meals or go to the gym. Yet I challenge you, if that's what you're saying and you're listening to this podcast, I'd love you to start tracking your usage and see how many hours you're spending aimlessly scrolling on your apps. Another big trade-off is how much time on social media are you spending away from being present with your friends and family? I personally can't believe how whoever's saying this, how many families all sit living areas staring at their phones. Yeah. I can't believe the most poignant illustration of this for me is that you see a couple at dinner, like just the two of them in what would otherwise be a romantic dinner, sitting at a restaurant, but they're both scrolling their phones the whole time. I actively try to avoid that, but it's really hard when we're so used to snapping pictures and putting up to our story, and it's a date night, and now the restaurants are making us use our phones to scan the menu. We take a photo or we scan the menu and then we accidentally find ourselves flicking over to Instagram and we didn't really mean to do that. Or we can restrain. I am pretty good at restraining. I turn it on focus mode, but then I go for a pee and the first thing that I do is pull my phone out and check my messages. Like, it's integrated, isn't it? I often find myself minding my kids. They're playing. I open up my phone to answer a message from a client, and then I flick over to Facebook and start scrolling. I know that the best way that any parent can show love to their child is to be present with them, especially when they're playing. This is wonderful for the development and models what living is meant to be like. So I'm going to be the first to admit that I absolutely battle with this as well, reducing unnecessary time. It's very much like boredom eating, isn't it? We get bored, we eat. We get bored, we scroll. And breaking that habit is a challenge. For me, this is why I actually think the quality assessment, looking at what you are consuming, is a better place to start. If I'm going on social media, I want to make sure, even if it's accidental, I want to make sure that at least what I consume feels like it improves my life. What I find funny is that people like my dad, and check this out, Dad, if you're watching, and I know you're not watching, he shitbagged me for a long time about being on Facebook. He'd say things like, why would you care about all the gossip and whatever everyone else is doing, he would ask. Yet he would sit down every night and watch the 6 o'clock news, followed by the 6:30 current affairs. Like, the irony is incredible. People make an argument, Jace, how do you know what's going on in the world if you don't watch the news? Well, firstly, do you think that the news is an adequate depiction of the world? Or do you think it's just mostly Western gossip? If something's happening that will impact me, I just go with the idea that I'm going to be told by one of my friends, rather than watching the news. More importantly, why the hell would I want to sit down and watch a bunch of negative stuff that I then take on emotionally? Especially if you're someone who is already emotionally, like, you find it difficult to get balance. As sad as that is for whatever people are involved in the news story being reported, and as possible that it is that may one day be me, I don't need that information coming into my brain and impacting my day. Do you? The same logic should be applied to social media. Most people's feed is full of people complaining, arguing, talking shit. Wouldn't it be better to just block those people out? This is why I'm so adamant about choosing who you spend time with in person. If you go to work every day, like 8 to 10 hours, and you're surrounded by negative people telling garbage stories, what chance have you actually got about improving your own life? If you're in a friends group with a bunch of people that are not interested in experiencing any more than they've got or improving themselves, that's okay for them, but what chance have you got of doing what you want to do? Little. You know the biggest challenge? It goes back to what we originally discussed about comparison. Oftentimes, the people in your feed appearing on social media with beautiful bodies, they're actually really smart people. They're very caring people. And they talk about a lot of great stuff, like, absolutely. But if you struggle with comparison and you're not able to look at the context of their message and extract only what's applicable to you, then it becomes this like double-edged sword, right? I've learned that only 10% of what we say is verbal, meaning that the other 90% is what we see. So if your favorite influencer has a great message, but you're just constantly comparing yourself to them and they're always got their shirt off, doing a flex photo with good lighting and perfect form and all these different things, it's a fine line between inspiration and demoralization, which if repeated turns into helplessness. Again, this is hard for me because I've got to kind of actively move people out of my explore section. So as we bring this podcast to a wrap, what are the steps that you can actually take here? Well, first, do an actual assessment of how you think you use your social media. Is it just from a top level? Is it an overall positive or negative experience that you're having? If you think you spend an acceptable amount of time on social media, cool, no problems, great stuff. That's it. If you spend too much time on social media, then similar to a gambler restricting their betting accounts or their betting capacity, you can do the same thing. By going into your phone settings or the apps themselves, you can control the time, you can schedule quiet times. I didn't know that you could do that. Quiet mode, you can get reminders and reports about your consumption, which brings awareness. You can turn off notifications. You don't want to interrupt your day. This is certainly a habit for me just when I'm scrolling. And if it were me, I'd start cultivating from a quality perspective first. Rather than trying to cold turkey and go, I'm just going to not spend less time on social media. Instead, what I would do is just cultivate what's appearing in my feed first. This way, even if I am spending too much time on social media, it's for a generally positive influence or experience, including listening to this podcast, for example. So cultivating your feed is something you must do. Over the years, I bet you've subscribed to a bunch of pages and groups that you no longer need. Just go back in, go to your groups, and just delete them, leave them. I had to recruit a bunch of backpackers in my old job on a constant basis, and I was in 58 backpacker groups. I just got rid of them all. I was a member of a bunch of dads groups, and then I just saw this constant shit about just men sexualizing women in a bit of a rude way. It wasn't nice, it was a rude way, and I thought, I don't need this shit in my feed all the time. So you can either unfriend people who are negative, that you're no longer connected to, or you can just choose to unfollow them if you want to remain friends with them, but you don't want to listen to the negative garbage. Did you know that you can go into Facebook and Instagram and you can actually change the preferences for the ads that you're exposed to in the settings? If you've clicked a certain ad before, you will have what's called a cookie installed on your computer or your device that makes you continue to see ads from that person. If you want to stop seeing ads from that person, you can adjust that in your settings and delete the cookies from your devices. And finally, finishing on a word to our Academy members, who are the majority of the people that consume this podcast and how to use social media. Look, Facebook is a huge part of our delivery strategy to you guys. Having a platform to deliver educational content, to let you know things that are happening, to provide a supportive community around you. It's very integrated with what we do. And personally, I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen a community like ours on the internet, apart from maybe the coaching group that I'm part of. But it's pretty well connected. There's not a lot of garbage on here, is there? We've put a hell of a lot of work into making sure that we cultivate the right type of culture and community. And I think that's absolutely essential, that you get involved in the community so that you have a network around you that helps keep you on track when things inevitably get hard. Of course, we're always looking at ways to improve our delivery. That's one of the reasons why, if you were in a chat squad, you'll know that we recently cut them. A good idea in principle, but they were just interruptive, and we just got to the point where we thought these are no longer any good. So here's 2 principles to abide by. Number 1, if you struggle with social media and you're in Better Body Academy, do not feel like you need to keep up with everything all the time. You don't. I cannot personally, and there's no way in the world you can. That's not the goal. Just use the group intentionally to connect with others and to document your journey so that you get some support along the way. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing greater, I believe, than commending and supporting other people on their journey, because you get back what you put out. So don't feel like you need to keep up. The second thing is use the group actively as opposed to passively. What I mean by this is, the more you get involved in two-way interactions rather than just a consumption experience, the better the overall experience will be for you. That's because you're connecting to another human. That's why I try to get you guys to comment as the podcast goes along, so that we are connecting with each other as opposed to just me talking to you. Now, I realize a lot of you are listening to this at the gym and the like, and that's cool, but where possible, try to get involved. And finally, if you get the opportunity to meet any of your fellow warriors and wolves in person, you should absolutely do that. There's simply no replacement for kind of some in-person contact, brotherly love, sisterly love, if you know what I mean. So guys, a pretty complete episode here on both the pitfalls of social media, how to cultivate your feed, and practically what you should do. Hopefully this has been helpful. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast coming to you from Monday morning Australian time. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Okay, team, what's going on? Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. I hope that podcast was a recap. The big thing that we want to take out of this is, like, from social media perspective and from non-social media perspective, like other media perspective, just like ask yourself, like, what are you exposed to? Phil says, I stopped reading the news decades ago. I also hide posts, and I don't like to condition my feed to be more positive. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Does everyone know how to do this, by the way? If you don't know how to do it, let me know and I can show you. How many families all sit in the living room area staring at their phones? Look, this is hard to break, right? This is why I think it's really important that we cultivate the quality of the experience first. That's why. I just think it's important that we just chop out the negative or the things that are reminders of, like, these beautiful, unattainable bodies every single day from the same person. I just don't know if that's necessary personally. Kate said, I ended up buying shit that I don't need because of what I see on social media. Yeah, it's mindless purchasing. Yeah, it is. Packets of chippies. Yep. Yeah, and supermarkets designed to, suck you in, right? That's what they do. So guys, any comments? Anything that we can ask, answer, advise? Anyone? Love that. I do the same. If it's important enough, someone will tell me about it. Yes, that's exactly right. Exactly right. Okay, guys, well, there we go. I think we're wrapped for another episode. I hope you guys are having a beautiful, beautiful start or end to the week. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Have a good morning, afternoon.